the starting position as mentioned before. And you'll notice that when we go down there, we don't end up going back, and the reason for that is that we haven't programmed that in yet. So let's go through and do that. Let's go through and make it so when we go down, that will happen. So if our y plus this get global bounds dot height is greater than window get size y bottom area. So now if we come over to here, we can go up and we can go down. Now the big thing we're going to want to do as well is we're going to want to set the X and Y position to be the character's current position minus the height. So what we're going to do, there might be a little bit of noise. That's probably the fan in the back. What I can do, not a whole lot I can do about that, but what I can do is I can turn down the microphone just a little bit. Can everybody still hear me now? Go ahead and go into the chat. I'll adjust this as the fan goes on and off. It's just my place trying to keep warm. So just let me know in the chat how that sounds. I want to make sure you guys can still hear me as well. So go ahead and say something if it seems too quiet or if it seems okay. Then we'll go from there. While you guys do that, I'm going to go through and just add in our okay, hopefully it's not too bad. I apologize for that. There's not a whole lot I can do, unfortunately. It's just the fan in here. So, we have our left and right as well, and our right and left areas. So we've gone through and we've done all that. Let's go through now and get our position updated. So, if we're above, then that means we're going to be coming up from below. So what that means is that we want to have our starting position have to be subtracted by a certain amount from the top. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually have our y plus equals window get size y. And what that's going to do is it's going to put us at the bottom, so we need to also then subtract out the global bounds height. And what that'll do is it'll position us at the bottom. And again, if we're coming up from the, if we're going down from the bottom, then we want to subtract out the levels height. We want to add in the height of the characters so that we end up, right? Yes, because if we subtract up the height, oh, no, we don't actually need to. So now, what we'll see, okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that no one's ears are getting blasted off. So, we'll go through and do that. That didn't quite work. Let's see if this works. So that had some kind of issue. So let's come here. Take that. Real quick. Minus 16. Hopefully so we're not all the way in the entranceway. That way we don't end up going back to where we were originally. It's still happening, so let's go through and subtract out 2. So let's see what's going on here. So we go up towards the Y. We add on the Windows Y. Then we have to take out the height of the character. So let's see what this is causing an issue with. What I'm going to do is we're going to debug this real quick. So the starting Y is starting at the center. So the problem is we don't want to add that on. We actually want it to be equal to that. So let's go do that. That should hopefully fix that. And so now we start at the bottom there. And again, we're just going to do the same thing, but for the top. So if we come out at the top, we start down a little bit. So now if we go through and we play, you can see that as we come up, we come up properly, and if we go down, that is because we are supposed to be at the top. There we go. Now, here, go up. Now if we go down, we come down. So, we have all of that set up. The other cool thing that we'll be able to do with this is that we can set the starting X equal to our current position. And what that'll let us do is that'll let us, it'll make it look like we are still maintaining the same position as well. So we're going to want to do the exact same stuff now, but for the left and right. Left and right is a similar idea. The difference here is that now it's going to be the Windows width. So the reason it becomes darker blue when we go into the dark, why it becomes blue when we go into dark zone is we're simulating water. The idea is that you can use these tiles to go through and simulate different materials. So for example, let's say you wanted to have a lava tile. When a character goes on lava, you might want them to catch fire. And so a neat effect that you can do is you can do things like changing the color when you detect specific tiles that we're colliding with this system. So you notice that we're checking for a collision with this character, not. So in this case now, we'll go ahead and we'll let that happen, is that when we go on top of that, turns red. Simulate lava. So that's just a nice way to do effects. I'm using colors again because I don't really have any kind of animation skills on the drawing, so I'm not going to even try that. But you could do things like have a fire animation when you go on there as well. The big thing is you can detect that. So, starting X. If we go to the left, that means we want to be on the right side of the screen. So we want to do that, minus get global bounds width minus 32, and the height can just stay the same. Bring this down, and then when we go in from the left, we want to start. When we go over to the right, we want to start 32 pixels off from the left. And so that'll all work as you'd expect now. So we've got our basic worlds all ready to go. The big thing that we want to do now is we want to go through and set it up so that we can have, no, the textures are, let me go ahead and give credit to that again. Find the tab, here it is. Nope, that is not it. So I'm going to go ahead and give credit to Dead Kier over on opengameart.org. Thank you for these awesome tiles. This is what we're using real quick. It's under public domain, so it will be included with the project on GitHub. So real quick, actually, let me go through and update the project's repository. To those interested, you can download the code below and follow along. And we've added in more tiles, added in different areas, and added in special tiles, added collisions. I'm sure there's more I've added. I'm kind of bad about updating that fully on there, but we you guys get the main gist of this. So now we've got a lot to do as far as movements and stuff. Let's go through now and add in some other challenges and stuff. So the big things with this are that we want to be able to go through and interact with other characters. This is actually not as hard as you would think. Basically, all we need to do is we need to detect, first of all, whether or not we are talking to another character. First off, we need to detect how far away we are from a character, whether we're facing the character, and whether or not we're pressing a key. Now, in the past, I would have tried to do a convoluted system. Not in the past, many years ago, I would have tried to do a convoluted system, and this is what a lot of people do, but it's okay. What you try and do is you try and detect the collisions, and then while they're colliding with the character, you detect a key press. Now, the problem with this method is that you run into this issue where, you have to detect right as they're colliding with the character whether somebody's pressing A. And the problem you'll run into with that is that let's say that they, collide with the character, you bounce them off because you don't want them walking through a character. So you bounce them off, they press the key then, but because they're not colliding, the speech bubble doesn't happen. So you think, okay, well, I'll make the collision boundaries of the other character bigger so that we can, have more of that, but you're still going to be bouncing off. So how can we fix this? Well, this is kind of a neat solution. A friend suggested it to me a while back. Rather than trying to detect a collision between the player and the non-playable character, the NPC, what you can do is you can have the player fire a projectile. Basically, think about in something like Final Fantasy of your fireballs you throw out. Picture something like that, but it's completely invisible. You don't see it. There's no image for it or anything. It's just a little marker that we toss forward, and the marker can only go, say, 4 or 5 pixels in the direction the player is facing. But if it collides with a specific character, you talk to them. This is kind of a neat basis for how Zelda games, at least in the original games, if I'm not mistaken, did their sword slashes. Rather than detecting how close you were and whether you're slashing your sword and whether you're, facing the direction and all that, you make the sword slash as a projectile. And you only let the projectile go, maybe 4 or 5 pixels away from the character, but whatever it collides with, you can do whatever with. This is kind of a neat concept. It allows you to do some really, really cool things with it. So we actually want to go through now and create a projectile system for this. And we actually already had that. I probably should have copied that from previous code. You could do, it's effectively a raycast, a line cast. Essentially, yes. The main difference is that a raycast, line cast, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the same thing, yeah. Yeah, I guess you could say that's pretty much the same thing. And let's go through now, and I'm just going to go through to Invaded, which was our Space Invaders clone, and I'm just going to copy the bullet from here. So let's go through and sort these by name, and we'll go through and copy them into our main project. And we need to go through and show all the files again. Ooh, that's not what I wanted. Include in project. Cool. And so bullet.h is going to be an entity, and bullet.cpp is an entity. And we're going to do open this. So we have all of that, bool, and come down here, bool, and then return true. So we could do this, and we don't need a graphic for this. Nope, this is just Visual Studio 2013, I think. Yeah, I think it's just 2013. Yep, Professional 2013. So, yeah, nothing special. I I'm gonna see if I can get a hold of 2015, but I am no longer a student. I prefer not to pay that much money, so yeah, if anybody wants to help me out with that, I'm totally up for that. So, okay, so there's that. We can get rid of that, and get rid of that. And we don't need whether it's good or bad. We don't need any of those. We don't need those to be a part of it. And we should set the main guy's ID as well. What else did I need to set? I need to set the group ID. I did. Okay, good. Active is all set. So this group ID is equal to 1. Group ID. The main reason I want to go with Visual Studio is actually more along the line, more for the fact that I've kind of gotten used to Visual Studio. I know that's probably not the best thing to say, but Visual Studio is a very powerful set of tools. You know, there's a lot that you can do with it, and as a result of that, I like being able to have it. You know, there's a lot of really nice things that you can do with Visual Studio that other IDs it just doesn't work as well. For example, they have a very nice Visual C# editor, which is really helpful for simple things. I can go ahead and let me see if I'm okay to show this. Yeah, sure, why not? So, I've got other projects, of course, that I am working on slowly but surely. And no, I know it's the free version. Problem with Visual Studio on the free version, I don't know if this is still true, but last I checked it was. Free version of Visual Studio doesn't allow you to do desktop apps. I know that it lets you do Metro apps and mobile apps and stuff, but other than that, I don't know. Let me go ahead real quick and we can check on that. Microsoft Visual Studio 2015 or Community Edition. Let's see what this supports. Because last I checked, they did not support that. Pricing, no. Learn more. Oh, wow, they don't even see anymore. You can? Okay. Yeah, then I'll have to look into that. That sounds like a pretty good deal if I can. If I can do that, then definitely I'll look into that. I don't know if I'll upgrade immediately, because I've got a few other projects I want to do with 2013. Specifically, I have, my game editors and stuff that I've been working on for a personal project, which you guys are welcome to go in to look into. I'm going to hopefully be releasing more info on it soon. It's called Alien Puzzle. So, but for now, let's get back to this. So bullets, they're active, group ID, direction, set position, and what we're going to do as well is we're going to add a, did I remove the physics? Oh, no I did not. Okay, cool. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to, we have our direction, and what we're going to do is we're going to give that an X and Y position. So assign. It said that you could use it to develop paid apps, so I'm assuming it's for free. But yeah, there's Yeah, I think it said commercially. I'm generally skeptical with Microsoft's free stuff. It doesn't tend to be as nice, but I'm going to take a look into it. Can't hurt. And we'll see. So real quick, what we have here is we have our direction. The big thing right now is that that expects radians, so we need to go through and convert that, because well, I guess I can deal with radians if I so choose to, but I don't want to make others do that. So, to convert from radians to degrees, we have to multiply by 180.0f, then divide by math pi. And we're just going to divide by 3.14. Instead, we're going to do the same thing there, because basically basically you're multiplying it by 180 and then dividing by pi to get it to be in radians instead of degrees. And actually, that's going to convert from degrees to radians, so we need to do that backwards. Times. There we go. So you divide by 180 to get out of degrees, and then you multiply by 3.14 to get into radians. So that'll go through and let us set up the direction for it. And then we set the position, and then each time through there it'll do that. The final thing that we're going to want for bullets is we're going to want a distance. And the distance is going to be how far it can travel. And basically this is going to allow us to not have to worry about, we can add in distances to everything, which will be really useful, obviously, for talking to characters, because you don't want to be able to talk with every character from a mile away. So, there's that. And what we're going to do is we're going to say we need to track how far it moves each time. So, what we're going to do is we're going to have this distance minus equals, and what is it? It's y over x, right? Yeah, I think that's it. Right? Oh, anybody remember the distance formula off the top of their head? Distance formula. There we go. Oh, okay. So it's x1 minus x2 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. How can we do that? Hopefully that'll give us some kind of nice distance. And then what we'll do is we'll say if the distance is less than or equal to 0, okay. And that times that. And then if the distance is less than 0, then we want to destroy this as well. So basically every time we go through, we just take off however much we've traveled, and yeah. So, now that we have that, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to set it up so that we can have character speech bubbles. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to take a similar approach to what was done with lives and score, wherein basically what we'll do is we will be able to use, basically we're going to use that as, we're going to use that as kind of the basis. So what we're going to do is create a new item, and this is just going to be speech. And we're going to go through and copy score, and this is going to now be speech. And this is basically going to be just a speech bubble wherein we can set the text of it, and it will basically draw it in different words are getting past me today. Basically, this is going to be able to render all of our text and stuff, and we'll be able to use this to make characters talk and stuff. And I've got kind of a neat idea on how to do this. Yeah, let's go through and do this. We don't need a value anymore. Or do we need an update? And you'll see why in a little bit why I'm actually making this an entire class rather than just using the normal built-in text objects. There's a neat little thing we'll be able to do once this is all done. Okay. So there's that. Next up. Yeah, sure, I can go ahead and I can run this real quick and show where we're at. So, whoops, assuming that I cannot break things so often. Is left operand? What? Complaining about? Did I mess up that? It's left operand. Oh, whoops, that would be why. Sorry, I'm being silly. Okay, yeah, sure. We'll go ahead and run this now. So, let me show from the beginning. So we have our main menu where you can quit the game and everything, and you can even go in here and click play, and once you're in, you can move around. We have full collisions working now. You can go through and collide with everything. You'll notice it's a little buggy. The reason for that is that when we are colliding with two different things, it's going to cause issues. And that's going to be something we'll have to fix in a little bit, but we'll do that later. We have the ability to detect different tiles. So we can do things like this. So we have our tile system here. This is basically treating it like it's water, and we can come up here and we can go into a new area. Ooh. And again, the reason for this is that we are basically there's going to be some tricks with corners we'll have to do. So we have our basic collisions almost all set up. The big thing again is that corners are going to be tricky. You'll notice that it's acting like we're not colliding, and the reason for that is that it's basically corners are always a tricky part of games. You have to do them very carefully. We're going to kind of go over that in a little bit as to what exactly is going on, but for right now it kind of suits its purpose. So, yep. Okay, so there is that. So we have our basic speech stuff there. So real quick, I'm going to be right back. I just need to use the restroom. So I will be back momentarily. So I saw a question on whether it's randomly generated. The levels are not randomly generated. The goal of this is to show how to make more of a story-based RPG rather than something like a roguelike. So we're using Tiled here to be able to go through and design our levels very easily. This will kind of make it easier so we don't have to worry about things like... there we go. This will make it easier so we don't have to worry about things like designing levels in code and silly things like that. So this will make our lives easier in the end. So let's get back to this. So first off, we are going to change this around just ever so slightly. So we have that. Actually, we can just go ahead and keep it like that. I wonder if we can do that. I don't see any reason why not. Cool. Okay. And then SFML. Alright, and what we're going to do is we're going to come over here into, where is GIMP? Did I close GIMP? No, I did not. Here it is. Make this 128 by 64, and this is going to act as our speech background. So you know how most games, they aren't just simple little, they don't just show the text and have nothing behind it. They have like a dialog box. And that's effectively what this is going to be. So, go ahead and do that there. So we have that now, and now what we want to do is close that, close that, close that, come in here to main game. Ooh. Okay. Speech. Ugh, vampires are cheap. over here laughing. It's all silly. Okay, so there's that. Finally, we need to render this. Here, and you can see right down there in the bottom left we have that situated. So now let's come here. Oops. So you can see right there at the bottom we have our test message. The big thing we're going to want to do now is we're going to want to make sure that it also is set up to be the proper size of that it scales the background texture properly. So I'm going to add in a void set text string text. Here do void speech set text std string text. And what this is going to do is it is going to also set up to be scaled to the same size as that. So the big thing we have to do is we have to figure out the ratio of the font size to the current image size, if that makes sense. So basically what we want to do is we want to get our scaling width and our scaling height. So float width is equal to 1.2f, float scale height. And this is going to be based on the image's size and the text size. So what it's going to be is, for the width, it's going to be SF sprite get global bounds dot width over SF text get global bounds width. And we're going to do the same thing for the height. Set scale, scale width, height. And hopefully that'll work. Yeah, that's going to be wrong though, because that's going to shrink it. We actually want to do it this way. Should scale it up. Now the big thing to notice is that the height is wrong there, so we're actually going to want to add on a little bit to that. To scale it up just a bit more. And we're going to want to do the same thing for the width. And then we're also going to want to offset the text by, like, just a slight amount. Probably just by 2 pixels. To get it to be a little centered. And that's not quite enough. So offset it by 8. See how that, or by 5, and see how that looks. That looks a little better. So we can do things now like change those messages. What we can do is we can have it so that here let's see. Looks pretty good. That should add on a new line. Yep. And we'll go ahead and we'll move this up just a bit. And we actually want to use the text height instead. Go ahead and get that there as well. Actually, what we're probably going to want to do is bring that there. And this, no. And make sure we know where that's coming from. We'll do that, and that. And we need to come here and remove that. And now we have that down there working pretty well. So now we want to get it centered just a little bit better. So minus 64. And and that'll get it centered on there, on the x-axis. So, there's that. And the final thing we'll want to do is get the global bounds width and subtract that over 2 out. And that will make it straight on in the center. So now we can do basic text messages with everything. So what we'll want to do is we are going to want to So, now that we have that, we want to have a Boolean for whether he's speaking. And basically what this is going to do is this is going to limit the game whenever somebody is talking. So we have that there. And basically, we want to just kind of pause until the player presses a key, and then the game moves on. So when they're speaking, so when we set the text here, that'll become true. And then we come down to the main game, and we say, if paused, then we do that. Else, if speaking, then we want to have the speech stop. And we only want to render this when the player has something to say. So, come down here, and if so, come here. So, you'll notice that when the player is talking, we can't do anything. As soon as we press enter, however, then we can go through and move around. And we can, of course, we'll be able to set this to appear separately. Up here separately. We'll be able to set this to only appear when a player says something. That's not actually my PC fans, that's my fans for my apartment. My apartment fans are really, really, really loud for some reason. Oh man, if my CPU fans were that loud, that'd be, probably would not be a good thing. So, now that we have our basic text all set, we can go through now and add in a test character. So, let's come here. So let's go through and add in a test player. The big thing with this as well is that we are going to want to, basically we're going to want to have this, we can make this a tile in and of itself, or we can manually place the characters in a separate way. So what we're going to do is we're basically just going to manually place the characters. That'll make things a little bit easier. But real quick before we do that, I want to go through and close a few things, and I also want to upload this all to the Github repository. So let's go through. We'll leave those open. We'll leave those open. Speech bubbles, don't really need those right now. And then let's go to the Github repository. And the big things we've added are speech bubbles, added bullets to the game. So, again, if you're interested in following along more closely with the code, you can do that below. The Github repository is linked below, so you can go through and see the code as we go through and do this. So, without further ado, let us go ahead now and continue on. Let's go through now, and what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to add in a base NPC. This is basically going to be someone you can talk to, and, you know, nothing a whole lot special. The big thing is that we're going to want different types of NPCs, different types of characters. In an RPG, NPCs will generally have a base character. Hello, Sonora Minecraft. So the base NPC is going to have handle some of the more basic portions of our characters that we talk to. It's going to be basic things such as the ability to talk to them, and holding text and speech bubbles and stuff. The big thing is that every NPC will be able to look different, it'll be able to say different things, and it'll be able to potentially, if we wanted to, move around in a different pattern. So the idea is that all NPCs can do those things, but we only need to tell it to do so once. So let's go through now real quick, and we're going to do all of this copy-paste just to make things easier for now. And then most of this can all be gotten rid of, because we're not really going to be doing anything with him on that end. We don't need to have him have his speed. We need to update this to be 3 and get rid of that. So no, yeah, this is going to be a one-evening project. The goals with these videos is to go through and create a single project in a single sitting. It makes it longer, but it means we can go through all of the basics very, very quickly. And yeah, so this will all be on YouTube afterwards again, so if you're interested, you can find my YouTube link below. You can also find some links to some of my other stuff. I'm small description about me. I'm a recent graduate from Christopher Newport University, so you can go through below and read about me. You can see what this is all about, but basically this is to kind of teach everyone the basics of game development. So yeah, this will be done hopefully within the next hour if I'm not mistaken. So let's go through now, and we need to keep track of the speech bubble. So we'll go ahead and put that there. And we're going to link that into here, up in here. And put that there. This. And what we're going to do is we are going to switch entity group ID, and if it's a bullet, which is 2, then we want to set the text of the speech bubble to, let's just do hello world for now. Pretty boring, pretty simple, but it works. And you can see we have all of this here. Anything else that we need? Let's go through real quick and double check. So there's all of that. And then, so basically, he's going to have the same things there. The big thing is we'll set his color to be SF color. Let's go Scion. Actually, let's make this a her. Scion. And there is all of that. Okay. We'll go through now and So we have our main guy there. The big thing we'll want to do is we'll set her to be, let's see, 200, 200. Set her a little bit off from us so we're not crowding each other. So there's our NPC right up there. So what we'll go through and do for right now is just to show that the speech bubble works. Let's set it so that if we collide with her, she'll start talking. And this is going to be a little buggy because of the fact that, you know, it's never going to stop. So, that shows that works. The big thing we'll want to do now is we will want to have our collisions for her as well to do that. So let's come back to main guy. And what we're going to do is we're going to come here and we're going to say switch that. Move. Enable this. And that'll move us back so we're not able to run through her. So we have all of that. And let's go through real quick and do a similar thing here. This might help a little bit with our collisions for that, but it might also break it. I'm not really thinking this through. Yeah, that's what I was worried about. But we can do that, which should stabilize the collisions a little bit better for corners. So let's go through and give this a shot. That's not going to work. We'll come back to that in a little bit, though. Let's do that. Yeah, that's what I was worried about. Okay. So, we're going to stabilize the tile collisions in a little bit, but for now we're going to be focusing on our little test player, or test character right here. So, the big thing we need to do now is we need to be able to add a bullet. We need to be able to get it to be usable within here. So, what we're going to do is we are going to come here. We're going to make sure that the character can see the entity manager. And I can't remember if the entities can already see it, but they cannot. So, take that, and then up here, so now what we can do is we will make it so that if the spacebar is pressed, we're going to get back to that in just a second. What I want to do first is I want to set this up so that we have our space key working. So we'll come here. And this is basically just going to be a boolean indicating whether the space key is pressed, again, for the reasons specified in previous videos, and that if you press the space key and you hold it down, it's going to make things get really ugly. So now we need to go ahead and get this. So this position, x this, y direction, which will be done in a second. And we're only going to have it go, let's say, 5 pixels total. And then we're going to have a float direction that's going to be equal to 0, which is to the right. And then we're going to switch. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to actually make that, do some cool math here. So it's going to be the tangent of the, oh no, because that's not going to work. So I'm going to make a direction variable now. And that is going to be how we determine which way we're facing. So if our velocity is going to the right, and if our y is going to the then we should do that diagonally. Then the direction is going to be equal to, what is that? 0, 270, what is that? 90, 270 plus 45, 315. Else, if this velocity dot y is less than 0, minus 45, which is 225. Otherwise, we know that the direction has to be to the right. Else is less than 0. Then we're going to the left. And if the y is greater than 0, then it's going to be 90 plus 45, which is 135. If it's less than 0, it's going to be going down, which is 180 plus 45, 225. Otherwise, it's just going to be 180. Otherwise, y is greater than 0, then we're going up 70, and if we're not pressing a direction at all, we just want to maintain which direction we were going before. Go ahead and give those a sprite just so that we can see that. And that might also be why that didn't work just then, actually. Yep, that would be. And what we'll also want to do is when we get this, destroy. There's that. And finally, maybe this doesn't get there. Zero, zero, 1, 0, okay. And then that should happen. And then this should be changed to a plus, and this should be changed to a plus. And that will set that to be right in the center. We'll want to make the distance here a little bit bigger, so that we can see that better. You can see now that we're able to talk. Now the big thing we'll want to do as well is we'll want to make the bullet travel faster. So we'll multiply that by, let's say, 3. And that'll go through and make it travel much, much faster. And you can see that it maintains directions. So, we have that. Now the only thing I didn't like was that it was not in the right direction. Let's see here. That's better. So, we have all of that set up now, so we can do NPCs. We can go through now and we can do quite a variety of different characters actually, which is kind of nice. The big thing we'll want to do is we will still want to hide this transparent, so that'll make everything invisible. So now when we come up here and we talk to him, looks like we're just talking to him like normal. So, ta-da! And you notice we can talk at an angle as well. We don't have to be straight on. So, all of that works. So, we have the basics of talking, we have the basics of world exploration. The big things that we're going to want to do now for the final portions of this all are some kind of basic mechanic for attacking and destroying enemies. So most of that is already set up in the code, as you've seen. I got a question. Whoops, I missed this. I'm sorry. Senor Minecraft. Got the question. Excuse me. Which do you like better, C++ or Java? So C++ has kind of a special place in my heart. So as a result, I'm kind of biased, unfortunately. So as a result, I kind of like C++ better. That's just a personal preference, really. There are advantages and disadvantages to all languages. If you're interested in some of the advantages of C++, I wrote a quick little blog post below on what kind of advantages there are. Some of the biggest things, obviously, are speed. Java, however, is still pretty nice. I'm more of a C# fan, but Java's really, really nice when it comes to Android. Android's done a really, really nice job with how it uses Java and stuff. That's my biggest use for it. Outside of that, not as much. Mainly because I work on a mainly Windows environment as of right now. So I don't need to worry about cross-platform as often. And then there's also the fact that I just haven't found a use much outside of Android development and the occasional multi-platform thing that I really want to use Java for. So, moving on, let's go ahead and upload this to the Github repository. And we added NPCs, fixed bullet stuff. So that's all set. And synchronize that. So let's go through now and let's add in a couple of different things. First off, let's add in the ability to more easily place NPCs. Right now, if you look, we have to go through here into our main, and we have to place them that way. What I want to do, though, is I want to make sure that we can place them without doing so. We want to be able to go through and specify tile offsets for everything. So what we're going to do is we are going to add that on with our handy-dandy map system. So what we need to be able to do that is we need to come in here to map. We need to have access to the list of objects. The NPCs are not going to be a part of the tile set, so as a result, we need to be able to add things to our object manager. So what we're going to do, our entity manager. So we're going to add a reference to the entity manager here. And when we create this, we're going to add that in a link there. Come down here to map. There. And we need to come up here and include that. So we can remove that now. And this, that. And what we're going to do is tile 6 is what we're going to use for our NPCs. So in this case, rather than adding a tile, we're going to go through and we're going to take our entity manager, going to add an NPC, and we're just going to make it the new base PC for now. This just needs a link to speech. And this, and then it's going to be x times 64, y times 64. And when we load this, we need to give it a link to the speech. have to go back down to there. There we go. Oh, nope, that's not it. Nope. There we go. There we go. Almost there. Now, there we go. Okay, so now we have all of that in there. So now we'll be able to go through and add her in with our tiled editor. So what we need to do is take this tile and add that there. And underneath her, we want to make sure that we add in something. So let's come here to map. We'll use tile 1 here. We have to make sure we obviously export this. Bring that over here. And once we come up here, you'll see that we have our NPC loaded in right where we put her. Though slightly offset, it looks like, but works. For the most part. And you can see as well that when we go to the main menu, it actually saves where we were. And the reason for that is because of how we're doing the positional stuff. So we have that now. The last thing that we need to do is that it? I think that is it. Base NPC, base NPC. So we can go through and do that. And of course we can take her out and everything as well. So let's go through real quick and let us copy that and block that off. And now that we have our first two areas settled, let's go through and simply update this to have some basic enemies. What we're going to do is we're going to come up to here and we're going to just change her text. Oops. So let's go through down here. So she's basically going to request that we help her take these guys down. Come up here and talk with her. Now, I'm not sure what is causing that. I think it's unusual. Let's see here. Because tile 6 is not set up right. Do x plus y times this width should be equal to 1 now. So now that'll fix that. The reason was that was tile 6, and we're checking for tiles greater than 2, sorry. So now we can get closer to her and figure this all out. So there is all of that. We have a few more collision bugs we'll fix, but we'll get to those in a few minutes here. So now that we have that, let's go in and add some mobs. What we can do is add in a base enemy class. And this is going to be copied partially from the NPC, just to make things a little easier. So let's take this. We don't need to give them speech. We do need to have them behave within the boundaries, so we're going to leave the map in there. And should be it. Copy this. Again, we don't need our stuff there. This group ID is going to be 4, and the bullets are going to be 5. Actually, we'll make bullets for the character that they can actually shoot be 4, and this be 5. So, there's all of that. We'll set these guys to be red, so that they're very obviously evil, of course. And that should work for our enemies. So there's that. Let's go through and add in a player bullet. And this is actually just going to inherit from the normal bullet. So, like that. Do that. This x, y direction, distance, and this group ID is going to be equal to 4. So we have our bullets. And main guy is going to fire these normally, and we'll make this the X key. Key X. X key. And then bullet. So I learned to code through a combination of school as well as self-taught. Mostly self-taught. I taught myself a lot of coding stuff for the Nintendo DS way back when that was around and popular. And I kind of just, spawned out from there pretty much. yeah, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot more to it other than just, yeah, self-taught stuff. Oops, I put that in the wrong area. So we have our basic bullet system now. So we can go through and fire bullets. And you'll notice that they don't hurt the NPC, but they are separate. You know, we still have our ability to talk. So there's that. So now let's go back to our enemy. We have that there, we have that there. And the color there is red. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add in a simple enemy. We will make him the starting point here. So you can see he's there, and if we fire a bullet, he takes it and destroys the bullet, but he doesn't die. So we actually need to go through now. And what we want to do is we don't want to kill him immediately, but we want to give him health. So we're going to have health. And this health is equal to, let's go ahead and say 1 to start. This health minus equals 1. And if this health is less than or equal to 0, this destroy. So now, if we come into here, we can come up to him and we can destroy him. And yeah. So we have basic enemies. Not a whole lot of special stuff going on there. And right now, again, they're just spawned in the world like normal. So we'll come here and we'll demonstrate that we can destroy them and not have them affect us anymore. And you'll notice that the bullets are nice and clean. They're not taking up too many resources. You'll notice if we hold it down, it doesn't keep doing it. So yeah. And we can, of course, fire in other directions as well. That's when I'm apparently failing. So now the one thing we do need to do is we need to account for the top right hand corner. Going up diagonally to the right does not seem to work properly, so let's figure that out. So, and the reason for that, if x is greater than 0, so in that case, if x is greater than 0, then it should not be that. It should actually be 45, right? 0f, my math failed. And that was right. That was what was wrong. Hopefully that'll fix that. And apparently not. There we go. We can fire in multi-directional, so we have 8 directions rather than just the normal 4, which will be nice. So you can do some cool RPGs with this now. So let's go through now, and what else do we want to do? Let's go ahead and make it so that our enemies can be used as tiles as well. So the big thing that you'll notice is that we're going to need to have a completely new system for these tiles as a result. And by completely new, I mean that we just need to add in more tiles. So let's go through now and update our tile map a little bit more. We're going to add in a few different things. Ever released a game to the public for purchase. So I haven't released anything quite yet. I think I'll do some self-advertising. I am in the process of working on a game. It might not look like much, but it's kind of my own concept. It's a puzzle game called Alien Puzzle. I've been working on this for about 10 years now. This is like the first video game I made when I started out. And then, long story short, I want to finish it. This is like the first game I started, so I want to make sure that I finish it properly. It's going to be released for the PlayStation Vita. It's already coming well under completion. The big thing is just, you know, getting it done. There's some really cool stuff I have planned for it. I can't really talk about it quite yet, but it's coming. Well, I can talk about it. I don't want to go super in depth because that's not the focus of this. But I do have that game coming along. I also have, well, not quite a game. It is a neat little app, virtual reality app. You can find it online. It's called Cardboard Moonwalk. It's got some nifty little features. Yeah. And I've got some other small things I released. Nothing that I've ready to sell quite yet. There's some other stuff I do plan to sell, so if you're interested in that kind of stuff, you're welcome to follow me around on Twitter and stuff. I'm sure I'll mention it on there. Okay, so let's continue on. So the big things I want to do real quick before we're fully done with this game is I want to go through and I want to add in 1 or 2 enemies, 1 or 2 NPCs, and 1 or 2 different tiles that we can use. So the last thing that we need to go through and do before we're all done with the core system is we need to go through and update this to be able to have the main player get damaged. So let's go through now, and what we're going to do is we're going to give him a health bar, which means we need to go through and first off we need to get him, we need to go from, let's see here, what we can do is we can update the score system instead to be for health. So that'll be a little bit easier. And actually, before we do that, let's go through and fix these collisions. I want to go over what exactly is wrong with that and show how to fix that. That's a pretty basic thing, bug that we're running into, and it comes from the fact that we're not doing collisions quite right yet. So we have the ability to get collisions to the left and to the right. The big thing is that it is not checking all parts of the character. And what I mean by that is that it is only checking certain sections. So you notice that we have left, right, up, down. We're only checking the middle of the right and such. So what we want to do is we want to go through and effectively we want to check the entire left or right side of a character rather than just a single part of it. Basically, what we need to do, let's see here. So, you'll notice if we're right here, we're fine, but if we go right there, we're fine. But if we go like, oh, is it only on one side? Yeah, so right there is where it breaks. And the reason for this is probably because we're doing that, actually. Now that I'm thinking about this, I probably just messed up on what we're calling here. Whoa! Hate that feature windows. Alright, whoops, everything got all messed up. Okay. Let's see here. You notice we were able to glitch through. The reason is that it's not checking diagonally stuff. So we just need to go through and add a diagonal thing, and we'll actually be able to fix all of this. Now, the last thing we're going to want to do as well is we're going to change this to speed. Welcome back, AS96. There's that, and there is that. Okay. And let's go through now and add in diagonals. And what we're going to do is we're going to do top left is equal to 4, top right is equal to 5, bottom left is equal to 6, bottom right is equal to 7. And what that's going to allow us to do is to come over to map CPP, and we'll be able to add those in as alternate options. So this is going to need to now check. So for top left, we're going to want the up from here and the left is X. So that'll check for up there. And what we're going to want to do as well is we're going to want to add divided by 2 here, actually. That's another issue that we're technically running into. Width over 2, height over 2. So, oop. Wait. Plus that over 2. There we go. Over 2. Okay. So, we want to, for top left, we want to take the X of the left and the Y of the up. For bottom left, for top right, I mean, we want to take the X of the right. It's this one here. And then for bottom left and bottom right, we're going to do the exact same thing, but we're just going to take the Y's from their respective places. So, in this case, it's going to be down. Now, the previous thing I did, where I adjusted for where we're checking for collisions in, might also fix some of this. So let's go through and do that first. And actually, that fixes it. So there's no need to go through and do this anymore. We could if we really wanted to, but no real need. We'll at least still be able to detect corners specifically, so that's at least good. And you can see that it all works pretty well. So, we have our basic collision system all fixed up. We can come over here and we can destroy that guy. And if we come up, we can see that we appear up here. We have an NPC that we can talk to, and we have a little text box that appears. You could, of course, make that fancier if you chose to. And we can, of course, come through that guy. For right now, we're going to add in damage to him, though, very soon here. And you can destroy him by pressing X and shooting bullets. You can collide into NPCs, so that's at least good as well. And yeah. So let's go through and double check the speech bubble and figure out what exactly is going on with that. I believe it is has to do with the global bounds. get it. We need to get the texture rect instead. And that should hopefully fix that bug. So let's come up here. You okay, Megan? So that fixes that bug where the text box was resizing weird. So that's all situated. And the reason for that was global bounds takes into consideration the scaling, and we didn't want it to do that. So I just went ahead and changed it to not do so, and to use the texture instead. So real quick, I'm going to turn on some lights. Hopefully that'll look a little better. There we go. Alright, so we have all of our basic stuff other than our damage and stuff. So let's go through and add that to our main guide. So we have all of our collisions done, enemies done, bullets are done, and the base NPC class is done. So, let's see here. About 15 minutes left, it looks like, until this should all be set. Let's go through, come up here. So, and of course we can also make the bullets destroy themselves with certain collisions on certain tiles. An easy way that we can go through and do that is if we come up here to bullet.cpp. What we can do is we can go in and, I can't remember, did we give that to entity? No, we did not. So what we have to do is, you know what, let's do this. Really, map can actually be a part of this base class for entity. So let's go through and add that there. That into there, and then if we come down here to entity, put that there. So now we have that. And the last thing we're going to need to do is come up to here and call the default constructor. Which in this case is just going to take in map. Base NPC as well. We need to do that. Bullet, we'll need to do that. Okay, and then finally, oop, that's why we didn't do that before. Because map needs that. I am just not able to do this today. that. Everything look a little bit prettier. Okay, cool. So now that that's all done, what we want to do is come here, and we'll want to check our collisions. And if greater than 2, now make sure that all bullets are destroyed if they hit anything that is not a proper tile. So now we can come up here, and if we shoot these columns, or whatever you want it to be, they will destroy themselves. So that means that we don't have to worry about, that's one more way to get rid of bullets quicker so that we're not taking up a whole bunch of memory and stuff with them. They are pretty lightweight, so they shouldn't take up too much, but, you know, still, one more less thing we have to manage. And you'll notice that the game's running very, very, very fast. One of the great points about tiles is that because tiles are going to be rendered onto the image and they're generally going to be static, you don't have to worry about them taking up a bunch of memory with collisions and stuff. It's actually very, very, very easy and efficient to check it, because all you have to do is check the position of whatever you're trying to do collisions with, and you're done. It's a big O of 1, or C, rather than a big O of N, where N is the number of objects, making this really, really, really fast for doing things like collisions. And again, over here we have the ability to do very, very basic collisions with these tiles. So we can go through now and make most of our game. I think that we have most of the features of what we're going to want. I can't really think of anything else that we're going to need. The last thing that we can do if people are interested, and I'll leave that up to you guys on the Twitch chat, is if you are interested in going over how to do a very, very, very simple save system over where the player is and stuff. We can go through and do that real quick. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on creating our basic game. So let's go down to the main game. We're going to want more tiles. So let's go here. Okay, so we can go through and we can do that real quick. It's actually not too difficult to do. Let me go through and add in the tiles, and we'll do that at the very end after we finish off our different things. So what we are going to do is we are going to go through and we are going to expand the canvas size first of all. So originally this was 192. What we're going to do is we're going to up this to 256, or sorry, no, that's not what we want. Hold on. Image, canvas resize, go ahead and close one of the calculators I had open and open up the other one. So right now it is 192 for the height. We want to add on, let's say, another 4 images. So it's going to be 64 times 2, because we can fit 2 per row, and then that plus 192. So it's going to be 320 now. Go ahead and do that. And then image, layer to image size. So we now have that. What we can do now is we can label these to be different things. So this will be NPC 1. This will be NPC 2. And then we'll come here, we'll make this mob 1, mob 2. Now you'll notice that I'm not doing anything special with this. I'm actually just typing in the names there. That's because we don't need to do anything in particular. Because we're going to be getting rid of them almost immediately after, we're going to be redrawing whatever is underneath, so we don't need to worry about whether or not what it looks like in this case. So what we can do now is we can come down to map.cpp. We're going to want to have a few more different things. Well, in this case, actually, we don't need any more tiles, images. 6 is going to be 1 NPC, and NPC 1, NPC 2, mob 1, and mob 2. And we're going to have this be 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10 we'll just leave out for now. So we'll have that, and then we'll have this be enemy, and that be enemy, and then this, we don't need that, and that. So now we have our basic level ready to go. So let's go through here now and update this. Now, if we come in to play the game, whoops, I forgot to remove this guy from the main game. So remove that. Now we have that all set. Nothing in that room. But if we come up here, you can see we have our enemy up there. We have our guy here. We can come up here and we can take him down. So this makes it nice and easy to go through and handle things like a variety of different levels. You know, we can go through and we can draw them all out, and it looks beautiful when we go through and finalize it. We can, of course, update the characters and stuff. We can, of course, also add in different NPCs. So let's go through now and add in the 2 NPCs that I wanted before. So what we're going to do is we are going to come to Entities, Add New Item. We're going to add in, we're just going to name him based on what we did there before, which is just going to be NPC1. And we can actually copy the player bullet template, since that's going to be similar to how this looks. So base NPC, and this is going to be NPC1, base NPC, NPC1, and then this is going to be similar to that. Each map X, Y, and the only difference here is that his group ID is going to stay the same, his colors, her color is going to stay the same. We're going to change the text to be done in there. So the base NPC, let's see here, base NPC is right there. Where's the CPP file? Oh, there it is. So normally this is what the collision method looked like. We're actually going to want to override that elsewhere, but there's actually an even easier way that we can do that. Let's do this now instead. std string text, and this is basically just going to be the text of whatever the NPC should say. That way we have even less that we have to do.